Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 996 for the 15th of November. I just watched the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, and as I watch, I just can't stop thinking about Ukraine war because it looks like Russia fighting Ukraine. So one-sided. So anyway, we got to start off from the Kursk, from not the Kursk front, but actually in the Chernihiv region. So there is geolocation of Russian forces doing some PR actions. They basically crossed the border, and I just want to show you how this looks like. No, this is just a river that goes back to Russia. So that basically this piece of land is not really in favor of the Ukrainians. The Russians basically have captured this entire area here, including the Muravi as well as Kolos and clearly Novosilka. Uh, don't know MK what, no, there's so many Novosilka in Ukraine. So whatever it is, this just two geolocation with Russian incursion. As I mentioned in the frontline changes report, this looks like this doesn't look like anything. I mean, as in the this is not a offensive. It's just not an offensive. If it's an offensive, by this point, I would have gotten even more information about Russian forces, capturing more grounds. But it's not. Since the frontline changes report until now, there is no new information. So this is just some boops. I mean, just just Russians are just going through just PR action. So they just learn from the Ukrainians. So we go into the Kursk front. At the Kursk front, Russian forces are continuing their actions around their counteroffensive operations, with fighting reported over at Blakovo, Darino, Nikolaevo Darino, Leonidovo, Kremlyannoe, as well as this is another place which I forgot the name. I'm going to zoom in. So over at the western flank, the Russian forces continue their usual tentatively. They are still stuck at Leonidovo, Darino, as well as Nikolaevo Darino. No strategic tactical change around this region here, although there is a lack of Ukrainian attack being reported by the Russian side, and the fighting is now firmly, seemingly at Leonidovo. So that's the thing. In the northern flank, there is some changes as well. Again, lack of Ukrainian counteroffensive being reported. Fighting is now reported at Marevka, and the Russians are still attacking Malaya Lognia. So definitely something is happening around here, and the Russians are pushing. And we have to take note that if the Russians are indeed near to Malaya Lognia, and then they are attacking at Leonidovo, this is a pincer that will wipe out the Ukrainian forces over in the Kremlyannoe as well as a Kurlankoe region. So this is something to take note, that the Ukrainian forces in this region here may be encircled. There's a possibility. So that's the current situation here. Fighting is reported at Kremlyannoe already as well. So this is something that is happening as well. Over in the southern flank, fighting is reported at Blakovo, and but that's about it. We move on away from the Kursk front into the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, Russian forces have re-entered into Sonitsky Kozachok. And this is mapped by the Ukrainian mapping, with the Russian forces returning to this border town, and maybe to buy some food. I don't know. Ukrainians are definitely, going to find this very irritating. No, this is like a mosquito that stuck with you in a room, and then you just can't kill it. That's the current situation. The last mapping was never invalidated. According to DPS mapping, the Russian claim has always remains to be at Sonitsky Kozachok. It's just that now we have confirmation that the Russians have control around the settlement. So may not be a new incursion, but it could just be a Ukrainian finally acknowledging that they don't have control over that village. Over in the Lipsy region, we still have fighting being reported at Vysoka Yoruha. So, but that's all. Over at the Voschansk region, there is also fighting reported at Voschansk, but no, I think just skirmishes. So the Kharkiv front is pretty sleepy. We move on to the Kupyansk front. At the Kupyansk front, this electric guitar has now turned out to be real, with geolocation of Russian forces making more advanced within the center of Kupyansk. There is tanks, infantry being unloaded, taking POWs. So the situation in the rear of this area here, so this is the front. The rear positions, definitely I think something bigger must be happening that we are not seeing, based on the sources. So fighting is reported in the Kupyansk, and I got a feeling that the Russians may have much larger control. Instead, maybe it's a cello, I think it's a cello. But anyway, we shall see how this go. Over in the Pishchane front, at the Pishchane front, fighting is reported at Koleniskivka, and there is major frontline changes reported around the Pishchane region, with Ukrainian mapping conceding control of all the south of Pishchane and in the region of Berestove, confirming Russian advance in this area, largely strengthening the front line all the way leading to Kurakhove. So that's all from the Pishchane front. Further south, over in the Borova sector, fighting is reported over in Kopanki, Nadia, as well as Novosilka. Geolocation of Russian forces in Vishneve, confirming Russian presence in this sector. So this area here continue to be a core concern for the Russians to, they want to consolidate this position. It's going to take some time. This is also part of the Luhansk region. This area here is also part of the Luhansk region that the Russians have not managed to capture. So it's going to take a bit of effort for the Russians to fully take all of Luhansk. Over in the Crimea front, fighting is reported in Terny as well as Torske, but that's all. We go down to the Siversk front at Verkhovo-Okanyamsk. The Russian forces are fighting at Verkhovo-Okanyamsk, but that's all. And nothing else, nothing special about that. At the Bakhmut front, there is interesting geolocation. Russian forces suddenly appear in the middle of Chasiv. It looks like the Russians are making full use of their teleportation device, and they are appearing in the middle of settlements. I saw comments saying tunnels. I can't imagine there's so many tunnels for the Russians to use. But so this is pretty significant. With this geolocation, this basically guides us to confirm that the Russians have captured at least all of the this part of this settlement of Chasiv. So fighting is now into the center, nearing to Stadium Avahad, which is interesting because there seems to be a lot of stadiums being called Avantgarde or Avantgarde. So it's like, well, it's okay. Never mind. So Battle of Chasiv suddenly appearing. Whether the Russians is going to do this, capture this for real, I do not know. Because the progress in Chasiv seems to be really slow and very reluctant. It feels like it's just an action to draw Ukrainian forces into Chasiv, into a kill box, and if the Ukrainians don't come, then of course then the Russians will have no choice but to take Chasiv. So I don't think that's what the Russians want. So we shall see how this continue to progress. In the south of Bakhmut, there is also a lot of concession. Fighting is reported towards Bilahora. There is Bilahora, and there is not fighting per se, but the Ukrainian mapping have mapped that the Russians have captured the south of Klishevka, as well as over the south of Andrievka. This is a very interesting frontline changes by the Ukrainian mapping, and this may actually confirm that the Russian forces have fully captured Klishevka, and indeed it is so. So we can actually declare Klishevka, it should be Russian forces captured Klishevka, and then we put 15th of November, and this, sorry, my fingers is rebellious. So that's all. So this is not fighting per se, but by SOP, I would just still put it as capture. Although they did mention that it's advanced, but I got a feeling that this is just clarification of the front line. I think that this area has already been lost to the Russians long time ago. So we move into the New York front. At the New York front, the fighting remains to be at Donetsk as well as Skibinivka, and that's about it. Very boring. And moving on, I just want to highlight also that the Russian Defense Ministry did a weekly summary for yesterday's report, so we don't have Russian reporting for the rest of the Ukraine except for only in the Kursk region. In the Pokrovsk sector, at the Pokrovsk sector, Russian forces fight at Mariolibivka, Promin, Lisivka, Petrivka, Pustinka, Yurievka, as well as Novosilka. At Novosilka, there is frontline changes with Russian forces capturing some grounds south of Yurievka, due confirmed by geolocation, with Russian forces geolocated around here, pushing towards Pishchane. So that's all from this area. Moving further south, around the north of Kurakhove, this Kurakhove north sector, fighting is reported at Novodimitrivka, Sonsivka, Voznesenka. Geolocation of Russian forces plus Ukrainian mapping shown Russian forces advance at Novosilka, and fighting is reported towards Bereski, and some frontline changes over in Novosilka. So at Novosilka, the Russian forces has been geolocated by the Ukrainian mapping, or not geolocated, by mapped by the Ukrainian mapping to advance to the center of Novosilka, which means that there must be a geolocation somewhere around here, which I think it will appear in the next 12-24 hours based on the experience. And if the Russians are here, then this area here is unlikely to have Ukrainian troops, or if there is, then they are actually encircled, so or operationally encircled. So the situation at Novosilka is horrible. I think it's going to be gone. It's going to be captured by the Russian forces within the next 24-36 hours or 48 hours. Over in the Kurakhove region itself, there is fighting reported in Maximilianivka. This already mentioned these two. And fighting is reported at Kurakhove and Donetsk. Geolocation of Russian forces at Donetsk confirmed how the Ukrainian mapped previously, and there is an airstrike on Kurakhove as well. So this is the current situation in this area here. Moving on. Yeah, this is actually should be grayed out. So over in the Uspenivka region, in the eastern part of Uspenivka sector, the Russian sources declared the capture of Antonivka, and they have mapped that the Russians have advanced in this area towards Ilinka. Fighting is reported in the area of Antonivka according to the Ukrainian mapping as well. Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Fighting is reported at Yelizavetivka towards Vesely High as well as Trudove. And in this area, the Russian forces have made some advance into the forest. So in this area, into the forest, moving towards Vesely High and Yelizavetivka. So Vesely High, Yelizavetivka, as they move in this direction. So the progress of the forest, yeah, looks a bit fast, but we shall see the next 24 hours what it will bring. That will let us know how heavy the Ukrainian defense actually is. We move to the western side of Uspenivka sector, or the Uspenivka front. Russian forces have captured Maximivka with confirmation from Ukrainian mapping, and also that the Russian sources confirm map that they have advanced further towards Sukiali. So that's currently happening. That's Trudove, and Yasna Poliana also see some fighting being reported according to Deep State UA. So that's all from this sector, and we move towards the Velyka Novosilka sector. So as I mentioned before, the Russians are on the offensive in this area here. The offensive seems to have slowed down already. No fighting is reported in the Novodonetsk region. Over in the Velyka Novosilka region on the western side, Russian forces have expanded their control around Rivnopil. There's some advance around here. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Rivnopil. Russian forces are attacking at Makarivka as well as Novodarivka. So the advance slowed down very quickly. So that's a surprise to me. So yeah, either the Ukrainians have better defense, or the Russians is spending a lot of time consolidating what they have captured. But anyway, we shall continue to monitor the situation in this Velyka Novosilka sector of the Donetsk front, and we move into the Zaporizhzhia front. At the Zaporizhzhia front, there is no fighting being reported, and we go into the Kursk region. At the Kursk region, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned about fighting in the Pridniprovsky direction. We do not know where it is. I just assume it's going to be here, and that's about it. So anyway, this is the situation report or the summary for the day of 996 for the 15th of November. Do press the like button, subscribe, and yeah, and I'll see you guys in the next update.